Here we are again for another inspired conversation. And I just have to say, I am so grateful for the beautiful beings in my life that reflect such light and exploration and pioneers of spirit, pioneers of consciousness. And today I am with Jenna Banks, the author of I Love Me More. Phenomenal truth-telling book, so authentic, so real, and then full of like big time wisdom. And Jenna is also the host of the Jenna Banks show. And that's a video series where you can discover less commonly known information about how we live to our fullest potential. There's so much about Jenna that I don't know. And so, hey, now's the time. And guess what? You get to listen in and learn about Jenna. Specifically, we're going to talk today a little bit about how journaling has changed our lives. And Jenna, hello.
Hi, Joy. Thank you for the warm introduction. Excited to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, thank you for the always warm with you. And we've been sort of colleague friends. We've popped on Zoom a few times. I'm a big fan and supporter of your book. I was blessed to get a advanced copy and be able to give you a blurb.
That was amazing. I love it. It's right smack dab on the front of my book. I love it.
I know. So I think there's something more to our relationship.
Oh, my publisher put it there and I was like, oh, I love it. It's like perfect. Joy and Jenna right there on the cover.
So, yeah, because I really did get the hit to invite you to have this conversation when I received the love note email from you, and you have that great love notes email series that, you know, you're constantly sending me these reminders of how I can love myself more in my inbox. But particularly there was one that talked about journaling as a path to self-love. So that's where I want to start.
I love that prompted you for us to have this conversation. And so now we get to have it where everyone gets to listen in as well. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I try to journal every single day. When I don't know about you, Joy, but I tend to feel disconnected, like a little not as centered or grounded. So journaling for me is like, I imagine myself as a separate me and myself as two beings getting to know each other through journaling. And so I feel like I miss that relationship with me when I don't get that time with me. And journaling allows me to really just have that deep conversation with myself where the thoughts might run a little wild and get distracted by this and that. Journaling allows me to focus on a specific train of thought or work through a specific problem or a specific inspiration, or maybe discover a dream or explore a dream and see how it connects maybe to something in my subconscious. So I love the journaling time. I've gotten addicted to it in a good way. And like I said, it does really help me connect to myself better. How about for you? What does it do for you, Joy?
Oh, there's so much you said there. Yeah. I mean, I want to just pause for a second about that addicted piece, because we are, as animal human beings, right? You know, souls in this earth suit of animals, we have an addictive nature.
Oh.
And so, you know, we are habitual creatures. And so the writing practices, the journaling have become a positive habit or a positive addiction in my life too. So I can relate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And it is, like you said, me getting to know myself or aspects of self. So I have a lot of different ways that I journal, and that's what I wanted to ask you as well. But sometimes I do like to have somewhat of a focal. So it's like, what's up, what's going on? And it can be just exploring different aspects of myself that want to like chime in. Sometimes I even name them. So it's almost like parts having conversations, the scared one, the excited one, this happens a lot, actually, the scared one, the really inspired one. Like, what do we do? What do we do? How do we, you know, and like how they can come into more of a synergy and work together towards a dream.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So sometimes that's kind of one of the activities that I process myself through.
Interesting.
Uh, yeah, in my journaling. And then recently, another one has been automatic writing, where I have a theme question that I'm just
Mm,
really like wanting an answer to. It can be a personal question, it can be a health question, it can be relational, it can be work.
mm.
And then I pray and I ask that my higher self, that my divine being, or any of the guides that are aligned with pure love speak through me. And so it's a letter to myself from a place that is wiser, more perspective. That's been pretty phenomenal. That's my favorite thing to do these days when I
Oh
journal.
my goodness, automatic writing. So you've gotten that down. That is an area I would love to explore. I wanted to get it. I tried getting up really early. I was taking some kind of a course that had that in it. And I said, okay, great. I'm going to try it and get up at like 3 or 4 a.m. because apparently that's when you're most in deeper layers of your subconscious or something. And I am not a morning person and I was just too groggy to make it work for me. So then I gave it up. But it's still like, if I could do it during the day and do that, I would love to explore that, Joy. So I think that's phenomenal that you do that. So you've worked that muscle and now becomes easy for you.
Yeah, and I'll do it any time of day. I mean, often it for me is more like 7:30 or 8 a.m., sometimes a little bit earlier, but any time of day. But for what I found to be really important for me is creating that set and setting. So it's like lighting the candle, taking the deep breaths, letting it follow maybe some kind of embodiment, breath, or yoga practice,
Yeah.
but then stating my clarity of intention and then inviting the purity to come through me.
So good.
Then stop the censorship, just go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Yeah.
That's
So
interesting. So I think that's key right there is stop the censorship. So that's what got in my way when I first started journaling. So going back to the beginning, someone
yeah.
listening right now might be an absolute beginner, right? Where do you even begin if you've never even started automatic writing? What? That sounds way out there, right? To somebody who's a beginner. So for me, when I began, it really was as simple as wanting to open up my creative writing flow. I'd never considered myself a writer. I didn't know where to start. And I had read somewhere, maybe it was Artist Way or a summary of that book. I didn't even read the book, but someone had pulled out a tidbit and wrote about it on a blog post or something. And I thought, ooh, that is something that could help me. So I did exactly what I saw on the blog or whatever it was I read. They said, just start writing 15 minutes a day at a minimum or 3 pages, but give yourself a minimum, but make it super digestible, doable. So I thought, okay, I'm going to set that 3 pages. The next thing I remember is don't edit yourself, don't censor yourself, because that is, I could see myself doing that if I hadn't gotten that instruction before even starting, because we want to edit ourselves. We're writing and we're editing at the same time. You've got to remember, this isn't for anyone but you. Nobody's going to read this, or no one should be reading this but you, unless you decide to share. But you have to just get over all of that. It's the process. It's the process. Don't even care about what's on the page. It's just the process. So letting that go was really freeing for me. So the 15 minutes a day or 3 pages, don't censor yourself, write for you and don't worry about the outcome. That really got me started. Then I was able to write. And once I started writing, I found I had a lot to write about. And here's another thing, Joy, and I don't know if you've practiced this or not. Do you handwrite or do you type on your computer?
I handwrite. What about you?
Same.
Yeah.
Same. So this is literally the journal I was writing in this morning. It's I don't know, the light's a little bit bright, but it's at least 3 of these pages every single day is what I try to do. And sometimes the flow is there and I'll go 4, 5, 6 pages. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult depending on distractions. And so but that said, the handwriting. So another thing I read was the reason for handwriting is that it slows down the brain and allows you to better process what you're thinking or feeling. And I have found that to be true for me. Now, my partner likes to do it on the computer. I've stuck with the journaling by hand because of that. Just I've got a great connection going with that. So what about you? Why do you handwrite, Dre?
Oh, I just don't want to be on the computer, and I do so much of this in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, um, so, so what are you writing about when
Yeah.
you're taking those pages? Do you set a theme before you start writing? How does it work for you?
It differs. So when I first started writing, it was because I wanted to get out all my old stories to write my book and get out my thoughts and ideas about what I wanted to write about. So it started with that. But what I write about now, it could be something inspired, a thought I was having, some type of research I want to do, or some epiphany I had that I really want to work through the details of it. But it could also be something I've learned. So like you mentioned, I have my show, the Jenna Banks Show. I had a really wonderful guest on named Laura Zealand, and she wrote a process called Author Your Life. In fact, I just noticed she has a book out now called Author Your Life. So it's amazing. The process was amazing. And so I learned about writing about yourself as a third person, as if you're writing a story about the future you that you can imagine and dream up of. So she had mentioned she was writing, Laura Zealand was flying on a jet, doing this, doing that. And she wrote about herself in the third person. It was almost like a journal version of a vision board. And I thought that was so cool. So I found myself doing that this week. Jenna is, speaking on this stage in front of an audience of X, and she feels this. And that's a way to manifest, is to allow yourself to envision this future you and what you're doing and what you're feeling and what you're seeing around you. And that is a manifesting technique. So I go back and forth between writing out a thought that I have about something I might want to write a talk on, or an issue I might be working through, some type of emotion I'm having. Maybe somebody crossed a boundary and I didn't properly handle it, or didn't handle it in a way that made me feel satisfied or contented with my reaction or lack thereof, perhaps. So I'll write about it and work through, oh, you know what? I could have handled it this way. Next time I'm going to do that. And if I write that down, I imprint it in my brain, and the next time I am better prepared. So it just depends on what's happening. And that's the beauty of not censoring yourself and letting it free flow. You can't even think, oh, I'm going to get in this kind of a habit of writing this type of a thing, because you never know what you're going to feel like writing about. So I don't know. What about you? What do you
Well,
like?
this is great. I mean, I'm hoping people who are listening, like taking note of all these possibilities, because myself too, I mean, I'm always doing something different. I brought my journal, of course, as well. I'm doodling sometimes.
Yeah.
This is my last journal. I just play with different ones, but they're always, for me, no lines. I don't like to have lines.
Oh, interesting. I always have
Yeah.
lines on mine. Okay.
Okay, because I tend to do art and write affirmations. This is a bigger one that I picked up. So it's, I've done conscious ranting, just to name another, and what I mean by that is there's like something talk about uncensored. There's
Yeah.
something inside that is unresolved. There could be that some anger or disappointment, or just like needing to let out an emotion that I know, energy in motion, emotion, if it isn't felt and expressed through the body, through writing, through some way in my life, it creates constriction in my body.
Yeah.
So there are times when I just maybe want to write a letter to someone that I'm angry at. Now I'm fully aware that, I take full responsibility for everything in my life. And if that is inside of me, let it out in the most clear way that I can without involving another. And I found that writing has helped me. And usually after writing the first version, if you will, that I would never send if it's a letter, or the complaining version, there's a next version. There's a willingness to not just get it out and be upset, but to ask, what did I learn? What part did I play? And then there's that version of the writing.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Right. So it just becomes like actually me being able to get the venting out first, then okay, what was my part? Okay, what am I learning? And then maybe it evolves to now, how am I going to clean this up? And if I were going to write a self-responsible letter or to this individual, what might it look like? And sometimes I will, but then it ends up being a conversation that I need to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it allows you to process it first before having that conversation.
Absolutely. And not need to call someone else up to do that with. And
Mhm.
it's different than letting it go around and around in my head. See,
Mhm.
that's what I love about journaling too. It's like sometimes thoughts just can go a lot faster
Mhm.
than letting thoughts and processes come out on paper.
It's so
So
cool. I love it. It just connects me to my higher self and source, the universe. I mean, sometimes I can get deep, like feel a really deep connection. And then, or I'll be inspired, not journaling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to grab my journal just to work it out, like to make that connection deeper and stronger and figure out what that is and just have it in writing. And I might refer back to it later. What was that inspiration? And so it gets you in the habit of being in the flow of writing too. So if you are in the creative field or you do tend to blog or create social posts or anything like that, being in that habit of grabbing your journal and writing when you're inspired is really good to have as well. I know I referred back to my journal a lot for that book of mine. That there were quite a few journal posts that made it into there, of course, edited and refined after. But the point is that you get it out on paper first, or get it out in your journal, free flow, just let it flow. It's so freeing. It is so freeing. For anyone on the fence, it is hard to start a new addiction that's a positive one, right? The ones that self-soothe, like food or alcohol or TV, are the easy ones to fall into. But a journal addiction, one that's a healthy habit, is not easy to start. You have to make a conscious effort and do it for you. But my book is all about self-love, and this is a practice in self-love. It is a practice of connecting with yourself, deepening your relationship with yourself, and doing it for you, creating that healthy habit. And again, it's a commitment. It's also self-discipline. If you can, do you know how many days it takes to create a new habit, Joy? Is it like 21 or something like that?
21 is what I hear the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 3 weeks.
Yep. So my suggestion would be, make a commitment to yourself, do it for you, 21 days. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm going to journal 3 pages or the 15 minutes. And I'm going to do it every day. I promise you this. Most of you will keep that habit because it is a wonderful addiction. And when I don't feel that connection with myself, I feel it. I really feel it. I miss it. I'm like, oh, I got a journal tomorrow. I missed it today. Something came up. I had an early appointment and then I couldn't get to it later. You're gonna love it. I promise you.
Well, and you bring up a good point. I do find for me the best time is in the morning.
Me too.
Yeah, to really journal in the morning, like many of my practices, my morning practices, it just sets the tone for the day. Sometimes before bed, sometimes the end of day can be a really nice time. And when in doubt, just 15 minutes on, how was the day? What am I grateful for? What did I learn today? What were some of the highlights of today?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring that up as well. So journaling before you go to bed, especially as it relates to a recap and what you're grateful for, supposedly has really good effects, because it's the last thing that you do before you go to sleep. And so it imprints this gratitude, this attitude of gratitude before you go to sleep, which raises your vibration. You wake up in a different mode. It's really good. So if you can write down what you're grateful for before going to sleep, that can have really wonderful implications in your life and boost your mood. And again, it's self-love, right? Because the more we give to ourselves in a positive way, the more we grow our self-love, the more self-confidence, the more our mental health increases. it's just better for us. And I like to say this as well, for everyone around you as well. Self-love is not selfish, because when we give to ourselves like this, we are literally benefiting everybody around us. Our mood is better. We're more compassionate with ourselves, which makes us more compassionate with others, kinder towards others. The more we love ourselves, the more we love everyone else around us. So if you can't do it for you, do it for everyone else in your life.
I know. I love that about your book. You talk about being your own best friend, really, like treating yourself as you would treat others, I think are the words that you use. And it's so true.
Yeah.
That's interesting, yeah, for people who are thinking about writing a book or the blog posts, I find that my journal is such a companion for those inspired moments as well. So maybe even outside of the journaling practice, the morning routine, my journal sometimes goes with me. Like if I'm heading out in nature, or if I get a lot of insights when I get body work. So sometimes I need to like bring it with me. So at the end of the session, I can just debrief like insights that are coming to me, like impressions.
Love that.
And
I love that too, Joy, not just in nature, but sometimes just sitting. Sometimes I'll watch something and my mind starts to wander and I get a download or something.
right.
It's coming from somewhere. Like, this is really good. I need to stop and go write this and just journal about this. So yes, absolutely.
And my journal is full of outlines, so to speak, or frameworks, not, I don't really have any rules, and I don't recommend anyone have any rules about their journal. It's yours. It's a diary, right?
Yep.
But, if I just get some insights, especially because I am a course creator and I do a lot of public speaking, if I'm like, have a talk or a topic that I'm exploring, sometimes it comes to me more in images or like bullet points.
Oh, cool.
And so then you talked about referring to your journal. You can see my notes here.
Love it.
Usually when I'm done with a journal, I'll go back through it and any parts of it that like, oh, I want to refer to this, or I want to turn this into a blog, I'll put the little earmarks, and go back to it. Do you do that too?
It's funny you mentioned that. I put stars next to an area I need to go back to, because otherwise it all blends in. There's no chapters or table of contents. So you have to, yeah, you have to do something.
And how about dreams? Do you ever write your dreams down in your journal?
It's so interesting you're mentioning this. I feel like this is a sign from the universe, because this is literally probably the 5th time this has come into my consciousness, whether it was a thought, something I saw somewhere, literally probably this is the 5th time this has come into my consciousness in the past week or so. So this is telling me I do need to be writing down my dreams, because I've had some really, really vivid ones recently, especially, but I always dream. But Joy, you're going to probably find this cray-cray, or maybe not, but I literally had an Uber driver randomly say, you should write down your dreams. So when the universe is giving you signs like that, it's time to pay attention. So no, I haven't been doing it regularly. Actually, this morning wrote something down from yesterday, because it was such a detailed dream. And I'm like, there's got to be something there. There's got to be something there that I'm supposed to be paying attention to. And again, what else came into my consciousness or awareness this last week was an example of somebody's dream actually connecting to something that it was almost like their angels giving them a story to help them comprehend a situation that they were dealing with. So it was basically like a different way to deal with it through this crazy dream. And I thought, wow, I never would have connected those dots. So there could be something there. And again, if you journal about it, maybe you can go, oh, you know what? That could relate to that. And it might help you connect. But again, that slow writing through handwriting in a journal might help make that connection. So this is in my awareness. I am going to do this because I do journal first thing in the morning, so I can do it when it's fresh. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Yeah. That's been profound for me.
Awesome.
Uh, well, I want to ask you a couple questions just because here I have you and I love your book and I do love the writing in your book.
Oh, thanks.
So you were very forthtelling in the beginning about your childhood and it was tough and you went through a lot of challenges.
Mhm.
How has that been to have had so many people now read and know your story? How does that just affect your life or how's it feeling in your psyche and reality?
Well, at the time that I wrote it, it was cathartic for me. It was healing in a way. And then it was also like ripping open old wounds.
Yeah.
Um, but it felt freeing to do it. So I did it with the intention of helping others. Like if anyone could connect to my story, maybe these concepts will get through to them, understanding, that our paths might have been similar, and this is how I got through, and found, discovered my self-love and how it's impacted my life in all these different ways. Um, since then, it's been amazing. It, as you know, getting a book out there is not easy. So you just never know like what's going to happen. But I'll get these random messages from people telling me how it's literally saved their life. And it just brings tears to my eyes, like it doesn't affect everyone like that, because some people, they're super well, studied on self-love, and some of the concepts might not be as profound. But for those who've never heard it, or they're new to the concept, or they've maybe heard about it a little bit, but have a different perception of what it is. Whereas some people think self-love is self-care, right? Getting a massage, going to the spa, all of that. Yes, you need some of that too, but what I get into is a lot deeper than that as well. So it's been really amazing to see those that it was meant for, reaching them and literally sometimes saving them, giving them that ray of hope and realizing, oh, this is the path out, and that they never would have thought of before. And that's literally who I wrote it for. So when it reaches someone who needs that message, it's amazing. It's words can't even describe it. It's surreal, right? It's hard to really put it into words what it's like to know that you going through what you went through and all the experience of writing the book and putting it out there, how it could literally change someone's life. And that's what the intention was. But like I said, putting it together and seeing that end result, I mean, it's just amazing. It makes me want to do more of that.
Is there another book in you?
I think so. I do think so. What it is yet, I don't know. I have a bunch of ideas. Now, Joy, I am writing another book currently, but it's not it's with a partner. Oh, Alexa's talking to me now. That's great. Thanks, Alexa. This has nothing to do with you. um, it is, so I have a company called Tiger Feather. And for anyone who does read my book, at the very last chapter, I talk about embracing your inner warrior goddess. And your inner warrior goddess was intended for those who have that hard time connecting with themselves in that way. It might be such a foreign concept. You may have always looked outside of yourself for your worth, your value, validation, all of these things that we look outside of ourselves for. In order to start the process, the idea of this inner warrior goddess came to me. And so I talked about, your inner warrior goddess representing the epitome of your self-love journey. She knows to say no when that's what she feels like saying. She firmly stands, firm in her boundaries and can speak her boundaries without any hesitation. It's this future you that you would love to be at, but no one can make that transition. You read the book and there's no way anyone is going to be there just by reading a book. It takes a lot of work, a lot of practice, being diligent, and years and years and years of work on yourself. And so Tiger Feather takes this to a whole nother degree. I'm super excited about it because it's fantasy fiction, kind of like a Harry Potter, if you will, but not Harry Potter, but written for young adults like Harry Potter was, to really get these concepts across in we'll just say a mythological think of Greek mythology, but it's not Greek mythology, but that kind of a way. So
Yeah.
that is actually in the process. We plan, my partner and I should have a completed manuscript by the end of June, at least the first draft. And it is just, I'm so excited about it. Again, I wouldn't have gotten here without journaling. Just that opening up of the creative writing flow and trusting your intuition and just flowing with it. You'd just be amazed at what can happen when you start journaling. So yeah, there's that book, but I feel like me personally, Jenna Banks, the author, writing about self-help and self-discovery and personal growth and all of that, I believe I probably do have at least a couple more books in me. So
But I love that you're exploring this new genre. I have also been playing with this idea of a fiction based on the sabbatical that I took.
oh my gosh.
Yes, because it's got the sci-fi flavor because I feel like our culture wants new mythos, you know?
Yeah.
It's time for us to have stories that actually are how we learn.
Yes.
And we live in this super normal world. I mean, I love that saying, to be an ordinary person having an extraordinary life. And if that can be fictionalized and brought into technicolor in a way that people relate, I'm all for it, because my world's starting to feel a little technicolor. I don't know about you, but it's like the veil is thinning and I'm starting to sense energy more than form. And so why not create these kinds of stories and books that, support us in a futuristic way of
Oh,
being.
I'm so inspired by you, Joy. Seriously.
Well, hey, this is a thought, and now I put it into a video, so we'll see. But the cool thing about it is I do have about 100 pages that I'm playing with. And the first 3 pages, the opening story is based on a dream.
Oh my
And
God.
the only reason I remember that dream, well, it was very profound, but a Native American gave me a beautiful blessing in the dream.
Oh.
But I wrote it in my journal.
Mm.
And then when I was reviewing my journal and I found the story of that dream again, it springboarded me into this thought and inspiration to actually be a truth teller or a way shower through fiction. I love that you're doing it. And I have a question too, Jenna, because you're doing it with a partner.
Yeah.
Are you noticing how much more co-creation and
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're mentioning that.
as a theme, like it's not about doing it alone anymore. It just feels like my workshops, I'm wanting to do them, and I am doing them with other people, courses, things I'm creating. So how did you find your partner, or is she a fiction writer, or?
No, she's a creative. She's in graphic design. No, neither of us have written a fiction book before, but we're both we're both very different, but we're good friends. And we just talked about it one day and we've just let it evolve. We actually started the company based on the tiger feather concept, the inner warrior goddess concept, called it Tiger Feather, and it was going to be something else, but we evolved it. It literally started as, let's dive deeper into the brand story. And then we started, and then we just married it with inner warrior goddess fully. And we're like, well, what is this story to tell as a brand story? But that brand story started being a whole fictional world. And we're like, oh, this is so inspiring. And there's something here. And so we just went for it and did the outline. And yes, so I'm so glad you talked about collaboration, because that is, so part of what we're writing about is the feminine and the masculine energies, the divine feminine, divine masculine, but not, not mentioning it, but because it is a fictional story, but we are moving into the feminine, the divine feminine. And part of that, from what I'm reading and exploring and researching, is co-creation. Actually, you know what I'm reading right now? Wonderful book by Nina Simons. I'll put this out here. And it's called Nature, Culture, and the Sacred. A Woman Listens for Leadership. Her story is absolutely amazing. I've got highlights all over the place because she, everything she talks about just hits me so deeply as
Mhm.
she talks about this women in leadership and connecting with our feminine and co-creation. Interconnectedness is part of ushering in the divine feminine. You know, our planet is so imbalanced. We've had this terrible imbalance for the last 5,000 years or so with our patriarchy. And unfortunately, now the planet is suffering as a result. We're feeling it, and now it's urgent. It is urgent that we fix this imbalance. And so that's the feminine coming through, the
Yeah.
co-creation,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I've been using more and more co-creation, not collaboration, because that has labor in it.
Oh,
So, and this creative, I'm partnering with a friend. We're offering creator circles right now. Right. So the creator circle is all about exploring self and soul expression to create that which we desire, with writing being a big theme.
mm,
But it is, we are these creators. So we're co-creating, and it's so much bigger than us. And yes, yes, and yes, it is connecting to Gaia, or Earth frequency, Earth Mother, the consciousness of the planet.
yeah,
And in every thought, word, and deed, how can we be more in integrity? So we are co-creating with the universe, we are co-creating with our guides, we are co-creating with each other. And what are we creating?
yeah,
And I really hope that we create that which is regenerative, because I'm with you. I look around and it's distracted, it's noisy, the grasping outside of self to find fulfillment within. It's time for the change.
it
It's
is.
time for the change.
I
And
think so many of us are feeling this calling independently and then finding each other and connecting for a reason.
yes,
Yeah,
and we find our true nature in nature, not a cup of coffee.
right.
And so the journaling and nature, just bringing it back to the journaling and the writing and these habits and these daily practices that bring us home.
Yeah,
So we stop the cycle of, I've got to get something out there, because we live in such a consumer oriented
yes,
society, and it's not time for that anymore. It is
yeah,
actually time for more of the stillness. So
yeah,
writing is a wonderful way to find the stillness, to find our purpose, to find our self-love, to find our inspiration. It's inside of us. And it's basically saying, I'm going to give myself a moment, a minute, 15 minutes, 3 pages, whatever it might be, to see what wants to be seen, to hear what wants to be written and spoken.
yeah. And
Um,
how can you hear that through all the noise of the day? And if we
right.
prioritize work and money and all and accumulating stuff, like how do we make time for connecting with ourselves and creating and co-creating and seeing what comes through? And that, can I just tell you, Joy, since I went down this path of deciding to write my book and express my thought leadership in this way and help others, really, I mean, there's nothing more soul inspired than, being able to help others through your own talents and gifts and all of that. Your dharma, I was always on the hunt for my dharma ever since reading The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. But there's just, it's so your book, a soul inspired life, inspired inspiration. I don't know if I read this in your book or somewhere else, but I'm sure it's in there. In spirit, right? Is that's what that word?
That's in the intro. Absolutely. To
Yeah,
be
I love
inspired
that.
is to be in spirit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I feel that every single day. And not to beat this drum too hard, but journaling got me down the path of starting. So, yes.
Wow. Well, I feel like we have filled our time with a lot of a lot of directions, which is the gift. which, you know, maybe we can each just share a couple other like last ideas or tips for people who are wanting to spend more time in their journal or get a journal. Um, and what's coming up for me, and then I'm going to pass it over to you, is let it be messy. That's just what I got right now. Is it is that creative process. You look at any artist's studio in the middle of a masterpiece, it is just what it is. So it's back to that, not censoring, it's not clean, it's expression, it's the out breath. It is really important to let it be messy, and there's no right way to do it, just your way. Let it be yours and let it be messy. So
Great. That is beautiful. Absolutely. So important. I would add to that self-discipline.
mm,
Self-discipline's what's coming through for me right now. Just having that thing that you do, that you commit to yourself, is just that act alone is profound. You tell yourself you're worth it. You're going to consciously create a new positive addiction, a new positive habit that benefits you and that you consciously choose. That is self-discipline, and that will lend itself in your life in so many ways beyond the benefits of journaling. So
that's a powerful frequency right there. And discipline comes from discipleship, same word. So to be a disciple of self,
yeah,
it's just naturally to be disciplined. So
love that.
wow, how fun. Oh my goodness, Jenna. You know what we didn't talk about next time though? How about a little teaser?
What's
Because
that?
you talk quite a bit about intuition in your book.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's, you know, I just finished interviewing 17 experts on intuition, and
Oh,
it would be
cool.
so fun. So next time, let's
Okay.
talk into inspiration and intuition.
Let's do it. I love it. One of my favorite subjects.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I followed my intuition and responded to your email. And for people who want to get the love notes or touch base with you, best spot for them to land?
Well, best spot is jenna-banks.com, because there you can find anything you want, social media links, sign up for love notes, get a taste for it. I'm starting to try and find a way to post some of those daily love notes on there so you can kind of see what they look like, because the content's great, and it's talk about inspired. Again, those wouldn't have come about if it weren't for the journaling. So yeah, so yep, jenna-banks.com.
Cool. We'll have it down below in the description. And thank you, my dear, so much. Have a
Thank
beautiful
you. Thanks for
day.
having me on.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for another inspired conversation.